Boom goes the dynamite. Check it out. Got it hooked up there, there, there. Feels good. Okay. Final step for hooking up the engine so we can get this boat off this dock is exhaust. So basically the old exhaust is completely pulled out. There's a little bit of a section in the swim platform here, but that's the bulk of it right here. And then look at this. Yeah, 1999 is when this was manufactured. I think it's a little past its prime. This type of hose, I believe, has a 10-year warranty, maybe 5. I'm not exactly sure. But it's gosh darn expensive. Like, all these exhaust parts are gonna be really, really expensive. So I'm out here trying to preserve what I can. Like, these elbows are basically indestructible. So I'm gonna pull this. There's a couple in there, and then there's this one here, and so I'm basically just gonna try to pull these out and save them. But the exhaust itself is like fused to this elbow, so I've just been like cutting it and prying at it to try to get this off. So, but all of this will be trash. There are a few of these. This is probably like one of the worst ones, but there are a few of these that I'm not going to save. Some of them are still pretty good, so I've kind of picked through those. Like, that one's going to be trash. And then actually these aren't even up to spec. Like, you should have 2 of these clamps on each fitting, and like this one clearly has only had 1, and this one isn't even the right style. They shouldn't have these perforations here. If you can get away with it, it should be a solid band like that one. So anyway, I'm gonna keep working at it to try to keep this elbow, because these elbows alone are like $180. Like, just stupid crazy. And then the other thing we're gonna preserve, or try to preserve, is our muffler there too. That thing alone, brand new, is like $350. So, and apparently per the manufacturer, Centec, they last a long time. It's like this special fiberglass with this special resin for high temperature and salt water mixed with exhaust fumes. So it's a pretty nasty environment, but apparently Centec is a good brand, and they basically say they're indestructible. So these are also Centec too, so I'm gonna reuse them. Probably, I don't know, clean them up a bit. Kind of gross. I mean, it is diesel exhaust, so it's gonna get gross, but you know, we like to try to keep things nice. But these, definitely not gonna save. Obviously the pipe from 1999, we're not gonna save. So, but we will just kind of take an inventory and taking a look at what we got before I start ordering the new stuff, and then just kind of reuse if we can. So yeah, that's my job. It's not too bad today, so I'm sitting outside doing this, and yeah, it's kind of boring, so I won't be filming it, but once I kind of work through it, we'll give you guys a look at what I think we can preserve and save. Okay. I got it out. That's what I want. Those are over $120 right now, so worth keeping. So I had to get out my rotary and a cutoff wheel, and then I just performed surgery on the tube. Boop, 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 all the way down, kind of on both sides. And then eventually it just popped out. So, and then I had this old chisel was lying around in the shop here, so used that too. So, all right, one down, couple more to go. Not too bad. Yeah, worth saving $100, that's for sure. Cool. Let's do another one. Got me one more. So, I mean, it looks dirty, but it's still solid. So look at that. Manufactured in July 12th. What is that? 80 or 2000? I'm thinking probably 2000. But Centex says it's good for the life of your boat. I'll do a little more research on that before. That's getting pretty old. So these also are pretty expensive right now. These are the proper ones that you want to use. This one just has some surface corrosion as compared to that one that seems to be pretty bad. So I'm just going to get this one on the wire wheel here and see if it is actually as bad as it looks, or if I can clean it up, or if this is just like surface staining. Yeah, it's worth it because these are probably like $12, $16 right now. So yeah, a few minutes on a wire wheel couldn't hurt. Let's give that a go and we'll take a look after it's done. All right, it cleaned up pretty good, but there are some spots that I'm worried about it. And it's right here where they loop this over and then they weld it together. On the back side, see that pitting? That might be kind of hard to see. Yeah, there you go. See that pitting? That is a failure point. And it's right where the two pieces are welded together. So it's good enough to keep on board as a spare, but not good enough to like put it on as our primary go-to. So yeah, that's okay. That's why we do it. But you know, we've got a good spare in case, I don't know, something else breaks and we need an extra one, just kind of temporary till we get a brand new one. This one will be really good for that. All right, here I am on the back of the boat, kind of laying on the boat between the swim step and the dock, because we need to take this apart. I don't know why they would join those basically two pieces right there together. That doesn't make any sense. Why don't just do a straight pipe back? So we got an elbow there, straight piece there, and then down here basically exits out the boat right here. So let's see if we can't get these things apart, because basically it's all going to get replaced. So yeah, start digging in and pulling it out. All right, got all of our safety gear on because we're going to try to cut off the last tiny bit of our exhaust hose that sticks through the swim platform. So I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. It is a pain in the butt, but we got to get it out because new stuff's going in, because we're going to get this boat off the dock and it's going to poop out exhaust as it eats the diesel. So let's go take a look at what we got to cut out. Well, that was easy. Check it out. It's off. So, let's see. There it is. So that hose, that opening right there, is eventually where the exhaust goes out from the swim step and comes out of our exhaust hose, pipe right there. And that was what I was gonna cut out. I was all geared up, ready to go, and it just wiggled right off. So that's always, you know, not what you want for a critical system on your boat. It's just wiggle it off by hand. Granted, I did pull off the one rusty hose clamp that was on it, but still, it shouldn't just wiggle right off. But it makes my job easier. So yeah, now that's it. And I just I'm gonna save that connecting piece right there. And now the new stuff is ready to go in. What do you think, Lulu? Is that going to be enough exhaust hose for us? Sure is heavy. Thanks for helping. You're such a big girl. Yeah. Big girl, big girl. Hello, check this out. We're going to talk about that in a bit. Here we are aboard Yara again. It is a rainy, wet, cold one today. This is the winter that just will not end. And I kind of want to do some other projects, but the rain is kind of keeping things from happening. But we've got a project today, and I think that project will relate to this. So this is our brand new exhaust muffler, a Mini-Max they call it, from Sentech Marine. Pretty neat. Nice and shiny, nice and new, amazingly well built. Like, you see that? I mean, this thing is nice. And the bonus surprise, when I was shopping around, the cheapest place for this was your Wet Marine, which usually isn't the cheapest place, but this was good. Free shipping. Hey. So this is a muffler. So the exhaust. So it says right here, intake end. When installed, this arrow must be on top, okay? And then outlet end, right there. So the wet, hot engine exhaust hose, well, the hose is gonna connect here, and then the exhaust goes through that hose, through the muffler, out this way, discharges to the back of the boat. Now, we originally, when we bought this boat, it came with a waterlock muffler style. Let me show you what that is. Hold, please. This is going to be replaced with this. Now, same manufacturer, Sentech Marine, but this is a waterlock style muffler. So what happens is, it's heavy. It's not, oh man, I dented our T candle there. What happens is the water in this style muffler, well, and this one's got like, they have them with like different inputs and outputs and things like that. But this one, the input's at this like 45-degree angle here, and the output is boom right there. So your hot, wet exhaust goes in here, bubbles and gurgles and down here, and then exhausts up here. Ugh, it's heavy. But it's huge. Look how big this is. I mean, it is the right size for the engine that we have, but now I don't have any room for it. I was planning on reusing it, and honestly, with a little bit of fabrication, we probably could reuse this. And these are freaking expensive. This guy alone, new, they still make this, is like $350, $400, like stupid expensive. And with a little bit of fabrication beyond just a little wedge, the original previous owner had this installed with this little wedge, because where it was just sitting, basically floating in space, this thing was just sitting on kind of a slant. But, you know, they wedged it up. So, you know, thanks for that. But really, this thing is basically a big, heavy canister full of gross, ugly, wet diesel water, exhaust water. And it shouldn't have been just like floating around. So if we were to reuse this, we would have mounted it the Yacht of Love way, right? So that was the original plan. Until I did some reading. So for certain engines, it's okay to use a muffler like that. A water lock style muffler, where the water goes in, calms down the noise, and then the water ejects out. And it holds water in it. That's the design. That's what it's supposed to do. But for our engine, the Yanmar 4JH3-TE, the installation manual says don't use a water lock muffler on the Yanmar engines with the turbo, and ours has a turbo on it. 75 horsepower, installed in around the year 2000. Way too big of an engine, way too overpowered for our size of boat. But the manual says we should not be using a waterlock style muffler. So even though when we bought the boat, the engine ran fine, like the inspection came back fine, there was no problems with it, with the engine, but I feel like the manufacturer probably knows what they're talking about, and I'm going to listen to them. So we're going to switch from the big, chunky, heavy waterlock style to just basically pass through. It'll still have water in it, but it's not a water lock, and that's a big difference. So this is they're branding this called the Verna Tone, and this big one is called the Verna Lift, because it lifts the water out of the boat, lifts the water up through this pipe here to get it out of the boat. Whereas this is more like just an inline style. And that's what we're gonna go with. We still want a muffler. I mean, I'll be honest, I was seriously considering straight piping the diesel, just straight out the back. But I think that would be a little bit loud, and Devin probably wouldn't like that. Neither would our neighbors or other people on the water. So we'll quiet it down with a muffler. We got a good one. Centec has a great reputation. These things are basically bulletproof. Like, this is no problem. Like, if we wanted to resell this or put it back in the boat, I would have no hesitation. It's all fiberglass and a special heaped epoxy, and then a nicely, coated black paint. So these guys build their stuff good, and they have a good reputation. You're gonna pay a pretty penny for what you buy, but really, if you use it correctly and you install it correctly, you shouldn't have any issues with it over the long term. It's basically gonna last the life of your boat. So that's the plan. All right, so down in the hole. So when we are doing these videos, I hope you guys know I'm not an expert. I'm just kind of figuring this out as we go. So, but I'm bringing you along, and I hope you learned something. So let's talk about what we've learned with our exhaust system and my process behind that. So when I start a new system, I basically study up on as much different material as possible. Nigel Calder's a go-to, Practical Sailor, Good Old Boat, Morgan's Cloud. I try to stay away from the forums for advice and best practices. It depends on the project, but when it has something to do with safety, I try to go with the experts. And the engine is very much for safety, and the exhaust is very much a safety thing, because if we get it wrong, we could ruin our engine. We could be in a sticky situation where the engine dies and like, oh, now we're floating towards rocks or another boat or whatever. The engine could, like, the exhaust is cooled by fresh water, so if we don't get it hooked up exactly right and in the right manner, like that exhaust water could like flood the bilge and flood the boat, because it sucks up a lot of water. Like, the engine is powerful and it needs a lot of fresh water to stay cool. So anyway, there's a ton of research that goes into these systems for me personally, and I'm sharing with you all the highlights behind it and like the tips and best practices that I'm basically kind of compiling and summarizing from all these various resources. And I use just a notepad like this to write down, I just write down my system. I start with a date too, so I know kind of like when my research was done. And I just kind of go down the list. Okay, check it out. Oop. Hold please. All right, take two. Check it out. So we've got our Mini Max muffler that's gonna slot in right, boom, right there. It's gonna, and then I'll line it up to that hole back there where the hose needs to go out. Something like this. Here's a piece of hose that's on a just friction fit on the end of the muffler. Boom. Could that be just not more perfect? I think I'll have to maybe come off the bulkhead a little bit, but we have some material that we can use for that to kind of center it in this hole a little bit more. But like, good night. I can secure it from up here all the way around to the bulkhead and kind of strap it down. That's just so perfect. It's nice and tucked up in here and out of the way. And it'll be safe and secure because I can kind of secure it from multiple points. But that couldn't have worked out any better. Happy with that. Now, doubly happy because look at our note here. Our note here says, after muffler, install anti-siphon loop minimum 12 inches high above water line. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, we're at a gosh darn 26 inches. Look at, I'm not lying. It says 26 inches right there. Over 26 inches. So, talk about plan coming together. I tell you, that's a plan coming together. We are ticking off our recommendations one by one.